Claire noticed the problem before the car fully gave up. The steering wheel trembled slightly under her hands, and a warning light blinked on the dashboard as if trying to get her attention politely before things became serious. Outside, the Colorado sky had turned gray and long lines of rain began falling across the highway. She lowered the radio volume and listened carefully to the engine. Something sounded wrong, too heavy, too tired. Beside her, Ethan sat quietly scrolling through his phone, his headphones resting around his neck. He looked up when the car slowed without her touching the brakes. Claire tried to stay calm, but when the engine made a sharp cough and lost power, she guided the car to the roadside with a steady breath. The vehicle rolled to a stop, surrounded by open land and distant hills blurred by rain. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Rain tapped against the windshield like impatient fingers. Claire laughed nervously. "Well, that's new," she said, trying to sound relaxed. Ethan stepped out first despite the rain, pulling his hoodie over his head as Claire released the hood latch. Steam drifted upward when he opened it, confirming what they already knew. The car wasn't moving again anytime soon. He leaned down, pretending to inspect something, but finally looked back at her with a small shrug. "I think we're done for tonight," Claire sighed, equal parts frustration and amusement. She had planned everything carefully: the drive, the timing, even the snacks packed in the back seat. Daniel, her husband, was away on a work trip, and she had promised to drive Ethan back from a school event herself. Now they were stranded together, miles from home, with evening approaching fast. She called roadside assistance while Ethan stood beside the car, rain soaking the edges of his shoes. He didn't complain once, which surprised her. Teenagers usually found reasons to be irritated, but Ethan seemed calm, almost thoughtful. The tow truck arrived after what felt like forever. The driver explained kindly that the repair shop was closed and wouldn't reopen until morning. Claire felt a wave of helpless laughter rise inside her. Life rarely followed neat schedules. The driver mentioned a nearby hotel, small but comfortable, and offered to drop them there. Ethan loaded their bags without being asked, moving with quiet responsibility that made Claire notice how much he had grown. She remembered when he barely spoke to her during family dinners, answering questions with one-word replies. Now he moved easily beside her. No tension, no distance. The hotel stood near a row of pine trees, its warm lights glowing against the rainy evening. Inside, the lobby smelled like fresh coffee and clean carpets. Claire approached the front desk, hoping for 2 rooms, but only one remained available. She hesitated for a second, then nodded. "We'll take it." Ethan didn't react awkwardly. He simply accepted the room key and carried their bags upstairs. His calmness eased her worry. The situation felt unusual, but not uncomfortable, just unexpected. The room was simple, with 2 beds, soft yellow lighting, and a large window overlooking the wet parking lot. Rain slid down the glass in long silver lines. Claire set her purse down and exhaled deeply. The day's tension finally left her shoulders. Ethan dropped onto one bed and stretched. "Honestly," he said, "this is kind of an adventure." Claire laughed, surprised by how true that felt. The stress of being responsible faded slightly, replaced by a strange sense of pause, as if life had pressed a temporary reset button. They ordered food from the hotel restaurant: burgers, fries, and milkshakes, and turned on the television while waiting. Conversations started slowly. Claire asked about school, and Ethan answered politely. He asked about her work, something he had never shown much interest in before. The questions felt genuine, not forced. When the food arrived, they ate while watching an old comedy movie neither of them had seen before. Soon they were laughing at the same jokes, sharing reactions without thinking about the age difference or family roles that usually shape their conversations. As the evening continued, the rain softened outside, creating a steady, calming sound. Ethan talked about his basketball team and how he wasn't sure whether he wanted to play in college. Claire listened carefully, offering thoughts without sounding like a lecture. She realized she rarely had moments alone with him. Daniel was usually the center connecting them both. Without him there, they were learning how to exist as individuals around each other. At one point, the movie ended, leaving quiet in the room. Ethan stared at the dark screen for a moment before speaking again. "Can I say something honest?" he asked. Claire nodded immediately. He hesitated, searching for the right words. He admitted that when his father remarried, he had felt unsure how to act around her. He didn't want to replace his mother or seem disloyal. Claire felt her chest tighten hearing this, not because it hurt, but because she finally understood the distance that had existed between them. She told him she had been afraid, too afraid of stepping into a role she didn't fully understand. Afraid of trying too hard and making him uncomfortable. The honesty changed the atmosphere instantly. The conversation became easier, lighter. They talked about small memories, family trips, embarrassing cooking disasters, and Daniel's habit of telling the same jokes repeatedly. Laughter came naturally now. Claire realized she wasn't trying to impress him anymore. She was simply being herself. Hours passed quickly. Outside, the storm faded into gentle drizzle. Claire checked her phone and saw messages from Daniel asking if they were safe. She reassured him everything was fine. Ethan waved toward the phone. "Tell Dad we survived the wilderness," he joked. She smiled at how relaxed he seemed. How different from the quiet boy who once avoided long conversations. Later, they prepared to sleep. Claire switched off the main light, leaving only the bedside lamp glowing softly. The room felt peaceful, almost suspended outside normal time. She lay awake for a while, thinking about how strange life could be. A broken car had forced them into a situation she would never have planned. Yet it had given them something valuable: understanding. Across the room, Ethan shifted slightly. "Claire," he said into the dim light. She answered softly. He admitted he had been worried the trip would be awkward when they first started driving that morning. He thought they would sit in silence the entire way. Claire laughed quietly, confessing she had worried about the same thing. The shared confession felt warm, like discovering they had both been nervous for no reason. He grew quiet again before adding, "I think tonight helped." His voice carried simple sincerity. Claire felt unexpectedly emotional. She realized trust wasn't built through big speeches or perfect moments, but through small shared experiences: waiting in the rain, eating late-night burgers, talking without pressure. The lamp clicked off, leaving only faint light from outside. Claire listened to the soft rhythm of rain and the distant sound of cars passing on the highway. She felt calmer than she had in months. For the first time since becoming part of this blended family, she sensed the invisible wall between them fading. Just before sleep claimed her, Ethan spoke once more, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm glad the car broke down." Claire smiled into the darkness, understanding exactly what he meant. The inconvenience had turned into connection, the delay into discovery. "Me too," she replied gently. Outside, clouds drifted away, revealing a quiet sky preparing for morning. Neither of them realized that this unexpected night, simple, ordinary, and honest, would quietly reshape how they saw each other from that day forward, turning a careful relationship into something warmer, stronger, and finally real. Morning arrived slowly, carrying soft sunlight through the hotel curtains. Claire woke to the faint sound of movement near the window. For a moment she forgot where she was, then remembered the broken car, the rain, and the unexpected stop that had changed the tone of the trip. Ethan stood near the small coffee machine, carefully reading the instructions printed on tiny packets. Steam rose as he poured hot water, focused like it was an important task. When he noticed she was awake, he smiled slightly and handed her a cup. "I figured we both earned this," he said. Claire sat up, accepting the coffee with gratitude. The warmth felt comforting after the long day before. Outside, the sky had cleared completely, and sunlight reflected off the wet pavement below. They sat quietly for a few minutes, watching people walk across the parking lot carrying luggage, each person heading somewhere different. The calm morning felt very different from the stormy evening. Claire realized she felt lighter, as if something heavy she had carried for years had quietly slipped away. Ethan broke the silence first, asking if she had slept well. She nodded and asked the same. He admitted he hadn't expected the trip to turn out the way it did. Claire laughed softly, agreeing that life sometimes forced meaningful moments when people least expected them. They dressed and packed their things without hurry. The tension that once existed between them was gone, replaced by natural conversation. Ethan talked about school plans and an upcoming tournament, explaining details with enthusiasm Claire had never heard before. She listened carefully, asking questions, genuinely interested. He seemed surprised by how easily they talked now, like two people who had finally learned each other's language. Before leaving, Claire checked her phone and saw a message from the repair shop confirming the car would be ready later that afternoon. Relief washed over her. The problem that had seemed so frustrating yesterday now felt almost necessary, like a detour meant to happen. Ethan stretched and looked around the room. "It's weird," he said. "One night and this place feels important." Claire understood. Sometimes memories formed quickly, tied not to location, but to conversation and honesty. They went downstairs to the hotel lobby, where sunlight filled the space and morning guests chatted over breakfast. Claire ordered toast while Ethan grabbed juice, and they sat near a window. The atmosphere felt easy. He asked about her life before she met his father, something he had never been curious about before. Claire shared stories about moving to different cities for work, about learning independence early, and about the loneliness she sometimes felt before meeting Daniel. Ethan listened closely, not interrupting. When she finished, he said quietly, "I didn't realize you had to start over so many times." She shrugged gently, saying everyone carried stories others couldn't see. Ethan hesitated before speaking again. He admitted that after his parents divorced, he had promised himself not to get attached to change. New situations made him cautious. Claire understood instantly. She told him she had also been careful, worried about crossing boundaries or making him uncomfortable. Hearing that seemed to ease something inside him. He smiled faintly and said, "I think we both tried so hard to be respectful that we forgot to just talk." After breakfast, they checked out and stepped outside into fresh air that still smelled of rain. The world looked brighter than the day before. They decided to walk toward a nearby park while waiting for confirmation from the repair shop. The sidewalks were damp, reflecting the blue sky. Ethan walked beside her easily, hands in his pockets, no awkward pauses between sentences. They talked about music, movies, and future plans. Claire noticed how thoughtful he was, how carefully he considered decisions. She realized she had underestimated how much he had grown. At the park, they sat on a bench facing a small lake. Ducks moved slowly across the water, and families passed by enjoying the morning. Ethan watched quietly before speaking again. He said he used to worry that liking his stepmother too much might somehow mean forgetting his mom. Claire reassured him gently that love didn't work like that. Caring for new people never erased old bonds. It only expanded the heart. He nodded, visibly relieved. The conversation felt important, not heavy, but healing. A call from the repair shop finally came, confirming the car was ready. They thanked the mechanic and began walking back. On the way, Ethan joked about how dramatic the breakdown had felt at first. Claire laughed, remembering her stress the night before. Now the situation seemed almost funny. Problems often felt larger in the moment than they truly were. At the repair shop, the mechanic explained what had gone wrong and assured them the car was safe to drive again. Claire paid and thanked him while Ethan inspected the vehicle like a professional, pretending to understand every detail. His playful confidence made her laugh. Once inside the car, she paused before starting the engine, noticing how different everything felt compared to the previous day's drive. The silence between them was no longer cautious. It was comfortable. As they pulled onto the highway, sunlight stretched across the road ahead. Music played softly from the radio, and Ethan adjusted the volume without asking, something he would never have done before. They talked easily during the drive, sharing stories and joking about small things. Claire realized she no longer felt like an outsider trying to earn approval. She felt like part of a team. Halfway home, Daniel called. Claire placed the phone on speaker. Ethan immediately grabbed it, excitedly explaining the adventure, the breakdown, the hotel, the late-night movie. Daniel laughed through the phone, relieved they were safe. Hearing Ethan describe the trip as fun made Claire smile. It meant the experience had mattered to him, too. After the call ended, quiet returned, but it felt warm rather than empty. Claire focused on the road while thinking about how relationships changed slowly, almost invisibly. One honest conversation could shift years of distance. She realized that being a family wasn't about perfect roles, but about shared moments that built trust piece by piece. They stopped at a roadside cafe for lunch. Sitting across from Ethan, Claire noticed how natural everything felt now. He told stories about childhood memories with his father, including funny mistakes and lessons learned. She listened, feeling included rather than separate from those memories. When they left the cafe, Ethan held the door open for her with an easy smile that carried genuine affection. Back on the road, the landscape passed in calm rhythm. Claire felt grateful not for the broken